All right, it's Kels back at it again with another video, another live on a Friday night. I promised you guys that each and every Friday night I would go live, show my face. So here I go live on another Friday night to talk about the topics you guys want to talk about for the week. I so appreciate you guys being here with me. I already see a couple of y'all waiting for me. You know what, I'm late. The doll is always late. I am so sorry about that. I'm gonna get better about my time in 2022. I promise you that. But I do want y'all to smash that like button for the consistency. This is week number 7. Week number 7 that we're going live. And you know, I be trying to get it together on a Friday night just to come live for you guys. So I would so appreciate it if you would smash that like button for the consistency. But in the meantime, you guys already know the deal. You already know the deal. Come on in. Chime in the comments, introduce yourself, let me know where you are watching from and what you are sipping on. Tonight, guys, I'm still with my boringness. I'm still sipping on my water. But one of these weeks, I'm going to surprise you guys. And I'm going to pop in with some pomegranate Ciroc or something like that. Or something like that. But tonight, we're still sipping on water, still getting that throat chakra together for the new year, keeping it lubricated, moisturized so I could go live for you guys. So yeah, cheers. Clink, 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 clink. Oh, the squad mugs are still in the works. I know DB is probably gonna chime in the comments in a second and be like, Kels, what's good with the mugs? They're coming, they're in the works. So, you know, let me get it together. Oh my God, but anyway, let me take a sip because I don't wanna come in completely on a 100 with you guys tonight. So let me just take a breather. Let's take a sip. Cheers. Yes. So I gotta tell you guys that, let me get myself together. I gotta tell you guys, oh yeah, we're looking good. Hopefully you can hear me and we shouldn't have any connection issues tonight. I don't think so. Let me get the thing together. All right, I think we're good. I have to tell you guys, I was kind of excited to go live tonight. I don't know, I just felt like, I was thinking about it. I was kind of thinking like, why am I so geeked? Why am I so excited to go live tonight? And I was thinking about it. I was like, what is it? It's Pisces season. I mean, it's Pisces season. Today's the first day of Pisces season, and you know your girl is a whole spring baby. First day of spring, you know what I mean? And so I was like, why am I so energized? Why am I so geeked to go live today? And I have to chalk it up to it being Pisces season. So bye Aquarius and all of that. Aries, hold off. You got to hold off for another month. But so we are in the Pisces fish season. So I think that's why I'm kind of excited for tonight. Anyway, last week I was asking y'all to stop lurking in the views because I can see you. I can see you on there. Chime in the comments. Let me know you can hear me, see me good, and everything's going good. Let me make sure we are looking live. I have my laptop here, so I want to get my laptop all situated and situated properly so that I can make sure I can hear y'all and see y'all. Oh, yes, I can. We're all set here. Yes. All right. We're looking good. So you can probably tell by the subject line on this video what you guys selected as your topic for tonight. But you know that each and every Thursday I put up like 4 options for us to talk about, you know, like the hot topics that have happened during the week. And so that you guys can tell me what you want to talk about. And so what we're going to do is we're going to start off with the options because I want to remind you guys of what your options were before we get into the thick of the conversation. You guys know I post the options on my IG. It's KELLS on Instagram. And then I also post the options on here on YouTube in the community tab. And then I also post them on Facebook. So it's you got the full gamut. I don't post anything on TikTok. I do have a TikTok, but I post the show kind of recap on TikTok or the Kickback recap on TikTok if I feel like it. But the options for you to choose what we talk about tonight, they are always on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. So just in case you're like, how come I didn't get to put in what I wanted to talk about? You got to pay attention to the thing. You got to pay attention to the Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok, and Facebook. And also, I will remind you, because I did get a message from, I'm going to use initials, RA. I don't want to use his full name because sometimes when I be using y'all full name, y'all be messaging me like, don't tell people, I be talking to you, or, don't mention my full name. So I won't mention his full name. But somebody with the initials RA had emailed me the topic that he wanted to talk about tonight. And so I might dibble and dabble in it a little bit at the end. But primarily tonight, we are going to be talking about Atlanta versus DC. Chocolate City or nah, my thoughts so far on the two cities, right? So as I said before, come on in, come on in, come on in. Introduce yourself in the comments. Let me know where you are watching from and what you are sipping on tonight. Tonight, it's a little H2O for the doll, for the girl. You can see my lipstick on there. And I'm gonna get some merch for y'all in a little bit. But as I said before, my priority is to be consistent with the community, get back on live, show my face each and every Friday night. And so this is week 7. So I want you guys to clap it up for me and for us for going live and consistent for the last 7 weeks. Yeah. So let me pop over to Instagram and remind you guys what the options were for this week. So let's do that. Okay, here we go. So the options, hold on. Got the volume all the way up. All right, so the options were for tonight that you guys chose from. Let me see here. Here we go. Oh, why is my phone acting slow tonight? Hold on. Come on. All right. Okay. All right, here we go. So the options for tonight were my review of ATL so far, DC versus Atlanta, Chocolate City or nah. And on YouTube, that got 55% of the vote. And then the second option was Kim K and Kanye lessons on mental health and toxic love. That got 18% of the vote. On YouTube, Super Bowl halftime recap, a win for the culture. That got 0% of the vote. Y'all did not want to talk about the Super Bowl recap on YouTube at all. And then with 27% of the vote, going over the top first in new relationships, are you willing? And so that came in with 27% of the vote. So on YouTube, it's looking like y'all want to talk about DC versus ATL, hence the title of this live. And then y'all also want to talk about going over the top first in new relationships. Are you willing? So we're going to get into that a little bit towards the end of the chat. I'm going to touch on why that even became a topic this week. But on YouTube, those were your 2 top choices. And so if you're wondering like, how do I get to vote? Go on the community tab on my YouTube page and you will see a poll come out on Thursdays about what we're going to talk about on Friday nights. Yeah. So that's and you can see the results on there too if you want to check it out yourself. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. Review of ATL, DC ATL versus DC so far, and going over the top first in new relationships. Are you willing? Yeah. And so that's on YouTube. Let me see if Instagram is working right quick. Because I want to see what you guys' results on that was too. For some reason, Instagram is tripping. And you know what? Half the time, Instagram be bugging out. Facebook, Meta, and all of them, they be having issues. So maybe they ain't pay their bill. I don't know what the problem is, but here we go. Okay, so now it wants to work. All right, so over on IG, put the same poll up, and then the top 2 were, again, review of ATL so far, ATL versus DC, Chocolate City or nah. And then your number 2, what on IG was Super Bowl halftime show recap, a win for the culture. So it's so funny because on YouTube, y'all did not want to talk about the Super Bowl at all with 0%. And on IG, you guys had that as your number 2 pick after the number 1 on both platforms, ATL versus DC, Chocolate City or nah. Okay. And then the Kim K, Kanye, and the going over the top first in relationships on the IG, they got 1 vote each. So y'all was kind of not really wanting to talk about that one per se over on IG. So yeah, so, and I could see the results on there too. And yeah, we're good to go. Oh, also, some of y'all said y'all wanted to talk about COVID, and I don't want to talk about COVID. We talked about COVID. I put an option for COVID like 2 weeks ago, and you guys didn't really want to talk about it. Like, the question was, would you date somebody who was vaccinated or was not vaccinated? And y'all, we did a poll on that, but y'all didn't really want to talk about it. So anyway, that is our topic for tonight. ATL versus DC, chocolate city or nah. And then our second one is going over the top first in relationships, in new relationships. Are you willing? Yeah. Yes. So, all right. So I do actually have a little bit of notes tonight because I knew you guys wanted to talk about Atlanta versus DC. And so I have like a little bit of, oh, you're here from London. Yes, we have some, it's late in London right now. Like, how are you guys watching live? But I appreciate you nonetheless. Yeah. So, oh, we're getting comments already. You moved to DC because of me? Well, I'm about to tell you the difference between DC and Atlanta, girl. I'm about to tell you the difference between DC and Atlanta, and I am in Atlanta right now, as some of you guys may or may not know. I did do on the first live back, the first kickback that I did after our New Year's live. I did do a little bit of a life update, and I did tell you guys that I had moved from Atlanta to DC literally 2-3 weeks before the whole world shut down for COVID. So your girl has been in Atlanta for over 2 years in March, like 2 years around this time. Well, it's still February. So in 3 more weeks, it'll be 2 years that I've moved from DC to Atlanta. And so what I'm thinking is, and the Bell perspective, chime in the comments if there's something particular that you want me to talk about in comparison, DC and Atlanta comparison. But what I have to talk about tonight is career prospects, the difference between DC, Atlanta. I'm going to talk about dating, the difference in between DC and Atlanta, lifestyle / expenses in DC versus Atlanta, and then networking and getting out there, being seen, you know what I mean, in Atlanta versus DC. Those are my 4 topics that I'm gonna talk about tonight. Now, if y'all have something particular that you want to talk about as it relates to DC versus Atlanta, let me know and we'll get into it. Yeah. ATL is not for me, but I can't wait to hear your thoughts. The Bell perspective says in the comments. All right, girl. Well, I don't know. I mean, compare the following places: DC, London, and ATL. Flex. You know I can do it. You know I got thoughts on all 3 of those cities, and if you want to put Miami in there too, I can do that as well. I could do that as well. Don't let me flex. Like, come on, like y'all. Some of y'all been subbies for a long time, so you know I could flex. But it's not always about the flex. It's just about being truthful in the different cities. And you know I'm a Rolling Stone, so I've been living a lot of places. For those of you new to the channel, like I've lived in Miami, I've lived in London, I've lived in DC, and now I'm in my 4th major city, and we are in Atlanta. And so I could do a little comparison of the cities, and spoiler alert, London by far. London is even better than New York. Loud as this kept. London is better than New York City. It's better than Manhattan. So, you know, y'all gonna have to fight. Don't fight me, fight your mama on that. Fight your mama on that, don't fight me. But London is better than New York. Loud as this kept. Anyway, okay, so let's get started. I'm gonna take a sip because already I feel like the throat chakra is already working overtime. So I'm like, did this shirt go off the shoulders or like on the shoulders? I don't even know. Should I put it down a little bit? Off the shoulders or on the shoulders? Let's do a little off. We'll do halfway. Anyway, okay, so let's talk about careers. What I found, so disclaimer, because, you know, YouTube has gotten to be a place where you have to put out a bunch of disclaimers so that people do not, you know, act as if your word is the only word in the universe and that, you know, you are personally attacking them. So Disclaimer, I am not personally attacking you or where you live with my experiences or explanations or opinions at this singular moment in time about DC versus Atlanta or Atlanta versus DC. Keith says off the shoulder, so we're going to do off the shoulders. And so I am not personally attacking any decisions that you made to move anywhere. And this is just my opinion in this point in time. 5 years from now, 5 minutes from now, 5 weeks from now, my opinion may change. But because this is captured on video, sometimes it's difficult for people to understand that. But I'm just letting you know this is just my opinion at this time of filming singularly and does not constitute my opinion in perpetuity, meaning this don't mean it's gonna be my opinion forever. It's just my opinion now, okay? And don't get your feelings hurt and don't take my word as gospel. I'm just one woman on the internet that you just listening to, okay? All right, so let's talk about career. So, and just by way of background, I lived in DC for 5 years. I can't even believe that. I wasn't even about to live in DC for 1 year. I was trying to move back to London ASAP. And then Trump got elected and it was a shit show after that. But anyway, I'm gonna get my hair done this weekend. I can't wait. Anyway, so I was 5 years in DC and then I have been in Atlanta for 2 years in the pandemic. So things are a little bit different comparatively, but so far, my thoughts so far, this is what we're gonna talk about. Okay, done with disclaimers. We're already 16 minutes into the video and I haven't said a thing, so we're gonna get into it. Okay, so career-wise, what I can say about DC career-wise is that a lot of people work for or in close proximity to the government. Obviously, DC is our nation's capital. There are a lot of agencies of the government, lobbyists of the government, the actual contractors of the government, meaning consultants to the government. So a lot of people work in close proximity to the government. When you work in close proximity to the government, a lot of times you need clearances to do your work. What is a clearance? A clearance is something that is a background check that they do on you as a person, your character, your financials, your criminal history, where you lived, where you grew up, all of that to make it safe for you to work in close proximity to the government so that they don't see you as somebody who could potentially be harmful. And so a lot of people in DC have clearances, need clearances for their jobs because they work in close proximity to the government or in some sort of satellite organization to the government. To me, that makes people very, very cautious and conservative in what they do because they don't want to lose their clearance or they don't want to jeopardize their clearance at all. So people in DC, whenever there's political things happening, you always see it like blue, like, oh, DC is a blue state, or, DMV is like blue. But the reality is that they vote blue or Democratic, but the people themselves have a tendency, to me, to be very conservative. And I chalk it up to them having to maintain their clearance, to maintain their livelihood and their career. Now, they will never agree to that. They think that they're super liberal. But in my mind, who's somebody who's come from Miami, who lived in London, they're liberal compared to their conservative cousins from where they're originally from. Because a lot of people move to DC for careers, right? So they think they're thinking they liberal, and they're just their liberal cousin of their really conservative family. So and I think it's that whole, okay, I'm the liberal one in my family and you think you're liberal, but not really. And then 2, I have to keep my clearance, so I can't really do too much. Wherever I travel, I have to report it. If I get a DUI or anything like that, it has to be reported. So you end up being to me, very straight-laced, very, very straight-laced in DC. Another thing is that DC is a lot of places in DMV. I'm talking about Arlington. I'm talking about Silver Springs, Silver Springs, Maryland, Arlington, Virginia, DC themselves. A lot of it is under surveillance because they have to protect the politicals that are there. So you think, you know, cameras and things like that, Secret Service be everywhere, you know what I mean? You know, you think that people are regular people, but a lot of it be undercover just to protect the powerful people or the powers that be that are in DC. So it is a little tiny bit of a big brother state. Don't kill me, but that's how I feel about it. It's like very, you know, watchful eye, very watchful eye. So we're talking about careers. Now in Atlanta, I find Atlanta careers to be run across the spectrum, because Atlanta is the southern hub of a lot of different corporations. You have Coca-Cola, everybody knows Coca-Cola, but you have all the tech places here, you have banks here, you have a lot of entrepreneurs here, which I love. I did not find a lot of entrepreneurs in DC because everybody worked for some governmental agency, and government jobs were so prevalent that people I didn't find a lot of people who were entrepreneurs there. I found a lot of people who had their undergrad degree and then they had their master's degree, and some had PhD or law degree or medical degree, but a lot of them were working for corporations or the government in DC. Whereas in Atlanta, when I run into people, most people are entrepreneurs. There are people that are consultants and things like that working for companies, but a lot of people have side hustles here that put them more in a creative space. A friend of mine, you know, I have a girlfriend of mine, a brand new girlfriend, love her to death. She's an amazing wing woman. Amazing wing woman. I gotta give her props for that. So she and I are out, and she always introduced me to people as, oh, like Kelly, you know, like KELLS is on YouTube, KELLS is on YouTube. And she's always like, oh yeah, she's popular on YouTube. I'm like, girl, stop telling these people this, because anybody you point to in Atlanta, by the time you talk to them 2 times, you exchange contact, you look on their IG, they got 50,000 to 100,000 followers. They popping. That's happened to me so many times, especially with my girlfriend. And I'm just like, and she's like, girl, you know, make it do what it do. And even for Valentine's Day, if you follow me on IG, you'll see I have gone out for Valentine's Day. And even the gentleman that we had met out, you know, you look at his IG and he's just popping, and you just meet them randomly and everyone's so chill, you know what I mean? And you can tell like there is a little bit of flamboyance in how people dress here. And so you could tell that the careers are more creative, and that the people generally are just a little bit more free spirited and expressive in how they put themselves together. And it's just by nature of what they do for a living. And even him, you know, I'm like, girl, stop telling people I'm popping, because every time you look on their IG, it'd be 100,000 followers. And he was like, no, everybody starts somewhere, girl. And like, you know, everybody starts somewhere. And so just really supportive and really like easy to talk to and network with. I did not find that in DC. I did not find that in DC. First of all, everybody was very conservative in the way that they dressed, especially in the winter time. We're talking about black, gray, navy blue, if you're lucky. Most people, even if you talk to them, they really just was trying to identify your proximity to power, who you work for, where you went to school. You know, are you on the Hill, which is like the political side of things, or are you a lobbyist, which is like a legal side of things, or are you a consultant, which is like a business side of things? You know, so they were always trying to identify your proximity to power, intentionally or unintentionally. What do I mean by that? They just don't know how to have conversations outside of, so where do you work? So who do you work for? All right, so where did you study? All right, so all right, so we're, you know, always trying to dig for, you know, always trying to dig for like your proximity to power. I will not say that Atlanta's not like that, but people are generally a bit more just casual about their flex. They be talking to you, offering you food and drinks. We went to Pasha's and different places in Atlanta, and offering you food to drinks. They're networking, they're exchanging information. Everybody I've met who's a master networker in Atlanta, they ask you for your IG. They ask you for your IG, or you exchange Instagrams. And so, so you exchange Instagrams. And so whenever you do that, then you can see, oh, whoa, they've been networking their behind off, or they're huge on social, or they're a fashion designer, or they're, you know, they're a, you know, an artist or something, a musician or something like that. And they be so nice and so kind and so down to earth. And then you find out they're in production, you know what I mean? Because in Atlanta, is a lot of television media production things happening here as well. I didn't find that in DC. So if you're more into the kind of consulting career, business career, DC is definitely the place. If you're more in a creative, media, entertainment, and some business, because you do have the southern divisions of organizations headquartered here a lot. You'll find that in Atlanta. Okay, so that's my thoughts on career, and dabbled a little bit into networking in Atlanta. Let me hop in the comments real quick, see what you guys are talking about, and then we're gonna get into dating in Atlanta versus DC, lifestyle and expenses, and then we're gonna we might talk a little bit more about networking if I have anything else to say there. Yeah, yeah. So let's see what you guys are talking about. Okay. So, ooh, Southern girls. Ooh, I feel like my lights are very bright today. Okay, so Gardening Gal is like, separate and apart from networking, can you discuss making new platonic female friendships in both cities? Absolutely, we're gonna talk about it. And then, yes, making platonic female friends in DC versus Atlanta. So that's two, y'all double down on that. Okay, we'll get into it. And then, Keith, thank you, love. I appreciate the fashion advice. Okay. All right. So let's talk about, platonic female friendships. I had a hard time making friends in DC. I don't know, you know, like, I don't know. I do have some ideas of what it is. And I'm gonna be candid with you guys. I do, believe that it's timing. I do believe that timing, divine timing, plays a part in a lot of things. Let me take a sip. Cheers, clink, 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 clink. Come on in, smash the like button for me, guys, and chime in on the comments. I see a lot of you guys watching tonight. I so appreciate the viewership, but like, let me know where you're watching from in the comments, and like what you want me to talk about in future lives and things like that. Okay, so let's talk about platonic female relationships. I had friends in DC, but I felt like it took me a very, very, very long time to make them. And for some reason, they didn't sit deeply in my heart. And I'm all water. So I'm Pisces, Cancer, Scorpio. And so how I feel in my heart about somebody is very, very important to me. And when I ride for you hard. And I found that it was difficult for me to make those truly deep, connective relationships, platonic or otherwise, in DC. I don't know if it was, I kind of have some, let me rephrase that. I kind of have a few ideas as to why. One, I think career absorbs so much of the oxygen in relationships and in your day-to-day, and pulls you out of your heart space so much in DC, that to me, that makes it hard to make. It was hard for me to be my genuine, authentic self and to move day to day from a genuine place in my heart. So it made it hard for me to make good platonic relationships there, both men and female, because I feel like I was too far away from my genuine self. Career-wise, I was successful, but I was just doing things every day at work that was just work and not true KELLS. That's one. Two, I think they had a hard time. I think in DC they have a hard time reconciling beauty and intellect. DC is not the beauty capital. It's not the beauty capital. So it was hard for people to see you dolled up and take you seriously in a career space. The number one priority in DC is like your career and your education. And then everything else is like subsequent to that. Whereas like in Miami, per se, because that's where I'm from, right? In Miami, beauty currency Beauty capital is high. So you better put yourself together. In Miami, I was in commercial real estate. Let me tell you something. If you didn't look like money, nobody was trying to do a business deal with you. What is a broke person gonna? Why am I gonna do a business deal with a broke person? Why am I gonna do a commercial real estate deal with somebody who looks like they're not making any money? So in Miami, your exterior is important even in business, because if you look like money, it's easier for people to trust you and want to do deals with you to make money. Yeah. So that's Miami. That's how I felt in Miami as a businesswoman. In DC, beauty wasn't it. It was proximity to power, as I said, which is where you work, who you know, and where you work and who you know at work, who you have access to at work, and where you went to school. So if you were beautiful, if you were even just trying to put yourself together well, and you stepped into these spaces where beauty didn't carry the same currency, it was hard for people to take you seriously. And so you had to over intellectualize everything for them to realize that, oh, someone can be pretty and put themselves together well and have their nails polished and have their hair did and be smart and be good at their company and be respected. It was more like, I don't know if you've ever watched movies where you see the nerds. Like if you watch a movie like a Bridget Jones type of movie, and it'll be like the librarian with the glasses and the hair in the bun and like working really hard and their hair is all frazzled, and when they do all that, that means that they're doing good at their job. That's how I felt DC was. Like if you ain't look frazzled, if you ain't look like you ain't have time to get your hair done, if you look like you ain't have time to get your nails done, that you was too busy to put lashes and makeup on, then that means you were doing good in your career. And the problem with me is that you will never in your life, if I'm not ill, you will never not see me dolled up. You ain't gonna see it. You're not gonna see it. So what would happen is that, Florida roots, as Rube is saying, like in Miami, we stay dolled up. You know what I mean? And so they were never going to see me looking frazzled, even though I was working hard. So they couldn't in their mind reconcile that somebody who was put together could actually be killing it in their job. That's how I felt about it. And somebody else is going to have to prove me wrong, but that's how I felt about it in DC. And so because of that, I felt like I was slightly like a little bit maybe like misunderstood, or I'm not really sure, but it just felt like, I'm not really myself here. Why am I not really myself? Or I was myself, but what was myself wasn't valued and didn't have currency like it did in London and like it did in Miami. You know what I mean? And so the finding friends and resonating in making good, genuine platonic relationships fell by the wayside because I could never really find my peoples. You know what I mean? I could never really find my peoples. Now, I will say this. I'm a Florida girl. Everywhere I go, the people that I like the best are Floridians. It just be happening like that. Either they spend a lot of time in Florida, or they, especially on the East Coast, either they spend a lot of time in Florida, or their families in Florida, or they went to the University of Florida, Florida State, FAMU, Bethune-Cookman, University of Miami, something like that. UCF, those were the people that really rocked with me and understood me. But everybody else up and down the East Coast, they couldn't understand your girl, and I couldn't understand them. So, the platonic relationships were a little bit difficult. I will say towards the end of my time in DC, I had some good friends that I worked with. And we would see each other every day, and it was like the little black clique at work. It was the little all the black kids sitting together at the lunch table, and but it was like we were different ages and things like that. And so I did make some really, really genuine relationships there, and they were very supportive of me when I moved away. When my dad passed away, they rode for me all that time. So I do have, towards the end of my stay in DC, I found some really, really good work friends that ended up being true friends. But it took 5 years. And I'm not used to that. Your girl could go out and have friends ASAP in Miami and Atlanta already now. I've made some really, really good friends. And I'm like, yo, these people are dope. Oh my God, friends, yes. So I just found it easier to make friends in Atlanta and in the South, where they understand, I don't know, Southern girls more, or Floridians or Miamians more. I don't know. Whereas in the Northeast, it was a little bit too intellectualized for me. and it made like a little bit of a disconnect in finding platonic friends. So I'm just gonna say that about making platonic friends in DC. All right. I see you guys chiming in the comments. I appreciate it so much. Ooh, so much love today. Okay. So that was the I was just talking about making platonic friends in DC, and that came from the comments here. I have my laptop here so I can see you guys' comments and talking about what we chiming in on what we're talking about tonight. Yeah. Okay. So dating in DC versus Atlanta. I'm gonna tell you guys that as long as I've been on YouTube, you know, I've been talking about dating. My dating topics kicked off in London because you guys were like, "How's dating in London? How's dating in London?" And so I started talking about it. And I will say that coming into DC, I did start doing some. I moved to DC in 2015, so I did start doing dating in DC videos, but I found them to be dry. I found it to be dry, honey. It was dry. And so I stopped doing those videos because I was just like bored. I was bored. And again, I feel like I wasn't my truest self because I was too much into the career stuff, you know, in DC. And I did date, like honestly, I dated more older gentlemen in DC because I really liked the theater. I really liked the Kennedy Center. I really liked the St. Regis. I really liked, you know, I really liked the finer things. And so in DC, that kind of defaulted to the older, you know, kind of gentlemen. And I did date some younger guys, but I, it, I don't I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. I will say this. A lot of times, commenters on my channel, under my dating videos, say move west. If you're in the United States, they say the East Coast is a wrap for dating, and that move west. When I say move west, they talk a lot about Texas. They talk a lot about Houston. Talk a lot about Dallas. They talk a lot about Austin. They talk a lot about Denver, Arizona, New Mexico. That's pretty much it. Mainly people talk about moving west and moving to Texas where the male to female ratio is. Atlanta does not have a good rap about dating, right? And so I moved here and I knew that, but I was like, am I going to let some conversations online and people's experience, you know, am I gonna let other people's experiences dating in Atlanta make that my deciding factor of moving here? No, that dating in Atlanta was not my deciding factor to move here. I needed to be closer to family. I was having big changes in my family and with my parents, and my parents getting older. And so those were my priorities in moving to Atlanta. Also, I was considering moving back to South Florida, but the way the careers are set up in South Florida, the way your money is set up in Atlanta versus Miami, you can see where I ended up. You know what I mean? And you can see I'm in my studio. It's a house. It's bought. You know what I mean? And that's within a year and a half of moving to Atlanta. You know what I mean? And so that was the main reason why I left DC. I don't even think I told you guys that. One of the two main reasons why I left DC, and I should talk about this more in the lifestyle section that I said I was going to talk about. But the two main reasons why I left DC is, one, to be closer to family in Atlanta, and two, to buy a property. I needed a property, you know what I mean? And I wasn't willing to invest, you know, up more than $500,000 to purchase a 1948, you know, house in DC, or even or $1 million in Arlington or Silver Springs, probably 400,000 in Silver Springs. You know, those are the areas right surrounding DC: Silver Springs, Maryland, Arlington, Virginia, and then DC is like 5 square miles in the center of that. And I wasn't willing to invest the money and to purchase a property, but I needed a property. And so when I was moving, I said, all right, let me go closer to family and let me go where I know I could buy a property. And that was it. Dating was not my number one. And I knew that the words "Go Gators," I knew that the word on the street for dating in Atlanta was, "It's not good, girl. This is that, is this is that, is this is that." But, you know, that's not my, you know, I don't make my decisions based on where I'm a date. And that's probably why I'm in the situation that I'm in now. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I'm always going to do what's best for me, as opposed to like trying to chase down, you know, a dream. But anyway, so dating here so far, I feel like because the platonic relationships are easier to make here for me, it feels like dating in Atlanta is going to be better. I'm gonna say less dry and less boring than it was dating in DC. Now, is it gonna be better in terms of like the outcomes will be better? I'm not sure yet. I'm not sure yet. But in terms of the possibility of being out, being out and about, being seen, dipping and doing it, having friends, going places, being invited places, being on the list, velvet rope, you know, like new places opening, I feel like Atlanta is that girl when it comes to that. I feel like DC was very elegant and very sophisticated, and fun in that sense, but it wasn't, I didn't feel like dipping and doing it in DC. Atlanta feels more like, oh, we dipping and doing it down here. And so hopefully that translates into a better dating scene. But according to what the girls have been saying, this is not the place. But according to me, I'm not gonna try to worry about what everybody else's experience has been. I'm just gonna try to cultivate my own and go from there. And so, yeah, but in terms of what I moved down here for, in terms of purchasing property and being closer to family, that has been a plus for me here in Atlanta. Okay. So dating. Tell me, you guys chime in the comments. Let me know what I need to know about dating in DC versus dating in Atlanta. I know Belle, the Belle perspective, you just moved to DC. How are you finding dating in DC? And I know you said Atlanta wasn't for you, girl. So let me know what's tea. Tell me what's tea in the comments. Yeah. Yeah. So I see my numbers are up to today. Y'all really wanted to talk about DC versus Atlanta. I appreciate the support. Coming in, coming in, coming in. Chime in the comments. Let me know where you are watching from and what you are sipping on. I'm sipping on some H2O. Keep the throat chakra lubricated. Yeah, normally, sometimes, like next time I might have some, as I said earlier, some pomegranate Ciroc or something like that. I'm tired of this water. But I'm still trying to do my little New Year's detox. And since today is the first day of Pisces season, this is actually my season. This is actually my new year. Today's the first day of my new year, of my new year. And so, you know, I've held true to my detox and yeah. All right, so should I jump in the comments a little bit or should I go on to the next thing we're gonna talk about in DC versus Atlanta? All right, so we talked about the dating. We talked about the dating. West. Honestly, okay, I'm gonna tell you guys this quick little story about how everybody in the comments on my YouTube channel is always telling me to go West. I believe them. I believe them. Okay, so how about for National Black MBA Conference? I went to Detroit, Philly, Houston. It was supposed to be in DC the year the pandemic had hit, so we missed that one. And then this year it's gonna be, in September, it's gonna be here in Atlanta. Okay, so I had followed the conference around because, you know, it's networking, you know what I mean? It's networking. So when I had gone to the conference in DC, this is about dating. When I had gone to the conference in Houston, girl, why did I go to Houston unprepared? I went to Houston totally unprepared for the gentleman. When I tell you this East Coast like scene is, it's all right, you know, it's all right. But when I went to Houston, totally unprepared for the men. Totally unprepared for the men. They were like top tier. And I went down there all dry in my DC outfits, not understanding that Houston, Texas was more like Miami. The vibe of it, the tropicalness of it, something about Houston. I think it's because it's on the water. I think it's because it's like closer to the water, but like I think the vibe there was just so much more like you could be more feminine. The men were a little bit more masculine, and so I totally understood what everybody was talking about, like go West when you're dating. So anyway, so if you're like, oh, dating in DC sucks, oh, dating in Atlanta sucks, try Houston, sis. Try Texas, because I got that information from folks, and that was my firsthand experience with that. And I kind of want to go back to Houston. Quiet as is kept. I've been to Dallas. Dallas was a look. Dallas was cute too, and I really like the art scene in Dallas. I stayed in the arts district in Dallas, close to the opera, close to like the theaters and things. That's like my love, performing arts, media and all of that is my love. So Dallas was a look too. I've not been to Austin, but you know, if you really, really looking, it's not DC, it's not Atlanta, it's West, it's probably Texas. Okay. So lifestyle and expenses in DC versus Atlanta. So as you guys heard, I moved down here to purchase a property, which I was able to do. It is very expensive to purchase a property in DC. And not only is it expensive to purchase a property, the properties are older. So you have to be prepared to care for an older property. So if you're a single woman, that might be, you know, obviously doable, but it's something that you have to account for. Okay. I do not find the expenses in DC to be that much higher than Atlanta. If you try to move your lifestyle, so say you have a certain lifestyle in DC and then you want to carry that same lifestyle over into Atlanta, it's gonna cost you the same thing. It's gonna cost the same thing. If you want to live in a high rise in a little town, you know, it's going to cost you $3,000 a month, regardless of where you're at. So, you know, I don't find Atlanta to be that much cheaper than DC, even though people try to act like it. Even when I moved down here, the company was like, oh, you could make money. We can drop the salary, drop your mom. What are you talking about? Drop your mother. No, you're going to have to pay me the same amount you pay in DC. Matter of fact, you're going to pay me more. How about that? You know what I mean? And so like, it's not, Atlanta's not cheaper. Atlanta's not cheaper. Now, what I do find cheaper in Atlanta are options. So in DC, for instance, say you want to live in the center of town, you want to live in DuPont, okay, in DC, or you want to live in Logan Circle in DC, or you want to live in Georgetown in DC, you will not be able to find anything like as by yourself in a one bedroom, one bathroom. You will not be able to find anything less than like $3,000, right, per month. Okay, you're gonna have to move the hell out of out to find that, or you're gonna have to rent a room, right? In Atlanta, if I wanted to live like in Midtown, or if I wanted to live like downtown or Buckhead, I could find something to rent that I could afford that would be lower than what most people are paying. So I don't know if that makes sense. So you could find an older property in that area, but if you wanted something newer, it would be like the 3,000, right? So what I'm saying basically is like, how do I explain that? So in DC, no matter how old or new the property is in a certain area, you're not gonna get it for less than 3,000. Whereas in Atlanta, you can go into the hot spot and you could kind of finagle and maybe find some property that's giving 2 months free rent. So you can kind of like work the numbers and prorate the numbers, or you could probably find an old property in the back of somewhere and you could probably, you know, get in for 2,000 as opposed to 3,000. So I think the wiggle room in Atlanta financially and lifestyle is definitely there, but it's not, if you wanted top tier nice stuff like you wanted in DC and you wanted in Atlanta, it's gonna run you the same amount of money. It's gonna run the same coins. If you want to go out for dinner every night, you want to go to the top tier restaurants, it's still $18 for a drink. It's Miami prices around here. And no Miami accommodations. It's just there's no sexy fish Miami up here or anything like that, but the prices are still pretty high. Now in Atlanta, you can find like more down to earth things and a lot more options for down to earth things than I feel like you can find in DC. Now, if you're talking about Silver Springs, Maryland, or if you're talking about Arlington, Virginia, which are the cities right next to DC, you can flex a little bit. You could flex a little bit. But lifestyle wise, it's not, maybe a 5 to 10% difference in DC versus Atlanta. But don't take no job down in Atlanta thinking, oh, I can take a $20,000 pay cut because it's cheap. And don't do it to yourself. Do not do it. Don't do it to yourself. You know what I mean? So anyway, I will say about lifestyle. So, okay, one other thing I have to talk about lifestyle. And I've been trying not to talk about it so much because I don't want to like amplify it, but Atlanta's kind of dirty. It's kind of dirty. You drive around the streets and it's trash everywhere. And you know another city that they talk about is like this is LA. They talk about this in LA. They talk about the homelessness in LA and they talk about how dirty it is. There's homelessness here in Atlanta. I don't think it's comparative to LA, but the dirt, the trash everywhere on the sides of the roads, on the highways. The roads are holy, holy. Your tires will be shot. Like when I say shot, meaning you hit a speed bump and blow out your whole tires on these roads up here. They do not clean. I don't know. I don't know if they, you know how sometimes you would see like, this is kind of bad, but you know how you would see like, free labor prisoners. You know, it'd be mainly us. It'd be mainly us. But you know how sometimes you have like people in jail that be cleaning the sides of the roads and things like that? Or you have Adopt a Highway where like college students would go adopt a strip of highway and they would clean it like on Saturdays for community service. Or high school students would do that to get their diploma of distinction, for high school. So if you do like 250 in Florida, like if you do 250 community service hours, you could get, with a certain GPA, you could get a diploma of distinction, right? And so high school students would be cleaning the roads. College students would adopt a highway and clean the roads. You'd have the prisoners, who they got to do their community service and they would clean the roads. A lot of that, like you have like in Florida, that's what I'm used to. So it'd be kind of clean. Apparently Atlanta don't have none of that. And when I don't even mean Atlanta proper, even when you drive out a little bit, it'd be so dirty. And I'm just like, should I call a commissioner? Who should I alert someone that this is like unacceptable? Because the curb appeal is just, it's just affected. And I'm not really sure why everyone is like so used to it being so gross. But I have to say DC, top tier, clean. DC. Now I'm not talking about, some blocks get left behind, some areas get left behind. You know how it is. We know how it is. We know how it is. But generally clean. Arlington, clean. Silver Spring, Maryland, I didn't spend a lot of time there, but when I used to travel there, I never remember thinking like, damn, it's dirty. Whereas here in Atlanta, every day I actively have to like keep my eyes on the road and not focus on how filthy it is. I don't like that. I don't like that. But I have to say that about Atlanta. I don't know. Somebody let me know in the comments, like, do y'all find it dirty or is that just me? And like, what's really going on? Like, why is everyone okay with it? The trucks be driving on the highway and trash be flying out the back of it. You do that in Florida. As far as I know, you do that in Florida. Somebody will report you. 311. There's a pickup truck littering. License plate ABCDEFG. Come get them. Here come the sheriff. Whoop. $1,000 fine. Here in Atlanta, it's like people open up the doors and throw chicken wings out of it. throw lemon pepper chicken wings out the door and a Chick-fil-A cup and keep it moving. I'm just like, okay, y'all. Anyway, so that's my rant about the kind of lifestyle. I found London to be very clean. Miami, most places like just on the roadways, little dirt, but all right. DC was very clean, for the most part, and where like the main tourists would be. But Atlanta, child, it's dirty. It's just dirty. Anyway. Okay, so the last thing I have to talk about in DC versus Atlanta is the networking. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But before we get into that, I'm going to jump into the comments and see what you guys have been talking about, because I know I've been rattling off. But I definitely want to see what you guys are talking about. I do have my blanket here because, it's cold down here in the basement. So, all right. So let's see what you guys have been talking about. All right. In the meantime, smash that like button. I so appreciate you guys joining tonight for another kickback. Each and every Friday night, I promise I'll show my face. So here we go. Showing my face 7 weeks in a row. Smash the like button for consistency. Yes. All right. Fresh seafood. Y'all want to talk about fresh seafood in DC metro area and the wharf. Okay. I will say that a plus about DC as well is the water. The water. I'm a Miami girl. If it's surrounded by water, I love it. There were so many wharfs in DC area that I love. When I say wharf, I mean like the south wharfs and waterfronts. So I mean like Southwest waterfront, Georgetown, which is the newest one, La Vie, Kith and Kin. Oh my God, so many good restaurants on the water. The fresh food was top tier. The luxury, sexy restaurants and everything like that, top tier. You know what I mean? And all of that in DC. Um, Atlanta's landlocked. And you have that Lake Lanier where they be killing people, where they be sending, oh, they sending newbies out there like it's safe. It ain't safe. You know what I mean? Don't go to Lake Lanier and don't go swim in that water or anything like that. And so Atlanta's like a little bit landlocked. There is like hiking and trails and waterfalls and things like that outside of the city, but the city itself is like, it doesn't, you can't go out to the water. In DC, you had Georgetown waterfront, you had Southwest waterfront, and Annapolis was close by. Somebody took me on a motorcycle ride out there one time. You had the waterfront in Alexandria. There's just a lot of water around DC where they have a lot of restaurants and theaters and art features and shopping, and it's walkable. So I really like that about, I really love that about DC more than I like. Atlanta doesn't have that feature, right? A lot of the things are kind of man-made, so you can go like to the the Braves, the Battery, which is like, a stadium, the Braves stadium, and some food eateries and some live music spots, but it's not like on the water. So I do miss that about Atlanta, about DC a lot, is like being close to the water and having the fresh food, fresh seafood. Blue crabs and things like that are huge in Maryland as well. So the seafood is top tier in DC, top tier. Yeah. And so okay, let me see what else is happening here. All right. And so let me pull back up what you guys are talking about here in the chat. And then let me see what else is here. So Atlanta is a creative hub for sure, definitely. One thing I will say about, you guys had asked me earlier about meeting platonic friends. When I moved to DC, I was looking for a private members club. A private members club is like a club that you have to join a membership to, that is a social club. It's almost like a country club, but it doesn't have the same connotation of exclusivity like that country clubs have. And so the reason why I was even looking for a private members club when I went to DC was because in London, it was all the huge thing. Like everybody was, who's who was a member of a private members club. And so you'll hear about this like at Soho House in Miami, Soho House in Brooklyn, Soho House in Manhattan, Soho House in London, and things like that. That's like a creative person's private member club, and you have to be invited in, and there's an initiation fee, and then you're like rubbing elbows with the who's who in the creative industries. Meghan Markle supposedly had met Harry at Soho House London, or Soho Farmhouse out in the countryside of England, and things like that. And so when I went to DC, I said, all right, DC, come on, come on, private members club, where it's at? Like, where are the black people at? Not a one to be seen. The only ones I saw was old ones that George Washington and Abraham Lincoln were members of, and it was all old white guys. And like, when I say old, I don't mean 40. I mean like 65, 70, you know what I mean? Old, and white hair and boring and cigars and big bellies and, and all of that. So I was like, damn, no black private members clubs, like nothing here that I would like do. And I did get invited to one that was a little bit younger, but it was still very kind of that boring feeling that I told you earlier that DC kind of has, like very conservative and like not very creative, and people are more politicals than anything else and worried about their clearances and things like that, as I said earlier. So I never really found a private members club. As soon as I moved to Atlanta, The Gathering Spot. The Gathering Spot is a black private members club here in Atlanta, and it's popping. All the mayors go through there, all the presidents and the people campaigning for president come through there. It's two or three black owners. It's been here for years, and it's funny because as soon as I came to Atlanta, that's when they were opening the Gathering Spot DC. So I was in DC for 5 years, and there was no private members club, and I couldn't find it. And as soon as I moved to Atlanta, I found the Gathering Spot, and the Gathering Spot was opening their membership in DC and starting the Gathering Spot DC. Now they're going to LA next, you know what I mean? And they always do these kind of things, like asking like, where should we open up our private members club? But in Miami, you know, where should they do their private members club? That's a gathering spot. So I think that making platonic relationships would be very easy in a city that has those type of private membership clubs. And Atlanta was ahead of the game in it, as it, you know, pertains more to Black people, for the gathering spot, versus DC. The whole time I was there, it wasn't there until I moved away, and then they finally opened it. You know, and in DC, if it was Chocolate City, I would have expected that to be there. But the reality was, it wasn't. It started in Atlanta. So Chocolate City or nah, you know, you let me know, you know. In Miami, you have your private members clubs, but it's more the Soho House. So these are more international private members clubs. And so that's where I kind of learned about private members clubs even before I went to London. Yeah. So that's going back to what you guys asked me earlier about, okay, platonic relationships. How is it in DC versus Atlanta? Okay. So let's see. Okay. So the Bell Perspective says, it's so true. I remember feeling like that, especially at networking events and even on romantic dates. So the Bell Perspective, you must be talking about like how professional it is in DC and how everybody's just so interested in what career you're doing and where do you work and where you went to school and your proximity to power. But they're going to ask you in a very covert way. Like that must be what you're talking about there. And yeah, that's how I felt in DC. And even when I would go to, like, I was out and about. Like, you guys, I don't know if you guys follow me on IG, you know, I'd be out and about. For the last 2 years, no, because of COVID. But even in DC, I was out and about, and I still found it like a little bit hard to make those genuine relationships. I used to be at Congressional Black Weekend. I used to be at National Black MBA. I used to be, you know, going to the openings of the Obama portraits and going to the Kennedy Center and going to the different the restaurants and food, top tier in DC, you know what I mean? So I used to be going to openings of places, and I even hosted parties and things like that for my friends, Ruby, who's in the comments here, soul singer, a badass soul singer, came and played the Smithsonian, hosted parties and things like that to welcome her to the city, you know. So I used to be out and about, but I still found it a little bit difficult to make those genuine heart-centered connections in DC. And as I told you guys, it took about 5 years to make a few, and then I moved away. So, you know, I did have friends, but it was just, they didn't feel as deep and as soulful as I like and I'm used to. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So the spectrum in DC is so different. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. And then UCF. Let me see. Somebody's saying here, I cannot read your name because it's in like a Russian font type. Let me see what he's saying here. I think it's not that you don't fit in the norm of the typical American, so they may find it difficult to relate to you and or which box you fit in. I had the same problem whilst I was living in DC. Yeah, I mean, you know, I've lived a lot of places, and so, you know, folks, DC is supposed to be this cosmopolitan place, right? And so if it's difficult for them to, you know, why should it be difficult for anyone to categorize you if you're such a cosmopolitan, you know, international type of place? You know what I mean? So that's the kind of like juxtaposition, honestly. Um, So good for you choosing your own definition of what dating is in Atlanta is like. Girl, if you listen to everybody, you would be like, oh my God, I'm never gonna date. You know what I mean? But I think there's dating here. It's just, you know, maybe the same things, and you have to think about it like that. Like maybe the same things that made, you know, me not necessarily fit the mold in DC is the same thing that's gonna make me like break a mold here in Atlanta. I don't know. You gotta think of it like that, and you have to think about thoughts that really serve you and not only take what everybody else's experience has been and place it on yourself. Just like, you know, when they say, when you tell your dreams to people and they want to tell you, oh, why it can't work or why it's not gonna work, and you're really not supposed to listen to them because what worked for them won't necessarily work for you, right? And so I say, like, you know, maybe you weren't successful, but maybe I will be. And hopefully that's not being naive or, you know, not being naive, but I do think that not, you know, you can't listen to everybody's experience and take it on as your own. Now, I will say going west is something that I have, you know, I feel passionately about in terms of dating. And the East Coast, I feel like, is tapped. But, you know, there were other reasons that brought me to Atlanta. And so I'm going to give it a try. And, you know, I don't think I'm going to do a dating in Atlanta series. But maybe I'll pop in once in a while and let you know how it's going. Yeah. Rubes' cheers, drinking some rosé champagne like we do. Love from ATL, my bestie. So proud of you and lucky to have you here in Atlanta. Finally, Ruby has been trying to get me to Atlanta for years. And I actually, okay, I'm gonna tell this story. I interned in Atlanta before anybody moved here, before anybody I knew moved here, except my cousin and my uncles, my mom's side of the family. They lived here, but before, and that's who I stayed with when I interned. But before any of my friends moved here, I interned in Atlanta, and let me tell you, I didn't like it. No, it wasn't for me. It was too Southern. I felt like the people they couldn't put me in this box, and you know, they expected me to behave one way, and I'm like, I don't know what you're expecting, but I'm not that. You know what I mean? And I just felt a little bit isolating. And this was like when I was still in college and it was an internship. So, you know, I wasn't fully KELLS yet. And so I was a little bit shaky in my own identity. And that shakiness kind of like translated to my experience interning here. And so after I interned, I was like, nope, Atlanta's not for me. And so I moved back to Miami, did my 7 years in Miami, and then moved to London. From London, moved to DC. From DC, I was like, all right, should I give Atlanta a try again, or are they still tripping? You know what I mean? Are they still out there acting, you know, real Southern? And you know what I mean when I say real Southern, you know what I mean? And, but then by that time, my family had moved here, my besties had moved here. And so I said, all right, let me give Atlanta a chance. I want to buy a property. I need to be closer to family. And little did I know this pandemic was about to shut it down for the next 2 years. And I gave it a try and it worked. Now, if you guys remember in one of my last lives, we talked about, y'all wanted to talk about code switching and not having to deal with people in the office. I will say this, I'm gonna be real transparent about this. I think one of the main reasons why working and living in Atlanta is not bothering me as much as it did a long time ago when I first interned here is because I don't have to step foot in anybody's office. I don't have to go to nobody's office. And so when you don't have to code switch every day, the burden, the weight on your shoulders to fit into somebody else's culture as the predominant culture is lifted. So you don't have to, it's not so taxing to be, you know, to be yourself. And so I am so glad, honestly, one good thing to come out of this whole pandemic, and I'm not even gonna say one nano micro good thing, is that a lot of us don't have to be in the office skinning and grinning in other people's face 24/7, because that is exhausting. You know what I mean? And so I honestly think that one of the main reasons why Atlanta is very tolerable to me right now is because I don't have to pretend so hard day to day. My camera be off, Zoom be off, guys. It be totally off. It be Zoom fatigue. You know, forgive me. You know, I don't be on camera like that, and so I don't have to pretend so hard at work. And so, you know, I think that's one of the reasons why Atlanta works for me now, in full transparency. All right. So hey Ray, greetings. Thanks for joining. Yeah. And then, okay, Sophie's in England and she has to go to bed. Thank you so much for catching up. It was 1:15 there. I appreciate you, sis, so much for joining in. I'm gonna try to do these lives. I want to do a live with my girl Florette, and do a international live with her. You know, she's in London, and I'm gonna have to do it earlier. So stay tuned. You guys are gonna be able to catch a live one of these days where you don't have to stay up past midnight. I promise you. We're gonna get it together. But I appreciate you guys' support so much. Yeah, definitely found friendly people here in Atlanta. And yes, Rube's has been here for 16 years. Wow. Yes. All right, so let's see what else is called. Chicken wing capital. Atlanta's a chicken wing capital. It absolutely is. Chicken wings be everywhere here. Everywhere. Chicken wing bones. It's everywhere. And Chick-fil-A paper bags and stuff. Like, what is going on? Okay. Yeah. Oh, hey, Felix. Okay, you're in Russia, St. Petersburg, Russia. I feel like, Felix, you've been in Russia for a long time. How long have you been in Russia? How long have you been in Russia? So Matthew, I'm not in DC anymore. I moved away from DC. I am in Atlanta. And so that's what we're talking about today. Atlanta versus DC, chocolate city or nah. And I'm about to give you my final thoughts on which city should retain the chocolate city title. All right. And so the last thing I said I was going to talk about. So far, Atlanta versus DC, what we talked about is we talked about career. We talked about dating. We've talked about platonic relationships. We've talked about lifestyle and expenses. And I think we can dabble a little bit into networking. And then we are going to call the live. Like I did promise you guys that I was going to talk a little bit about what was your second topic? Oh my God, what was your second topic? Your number 2 topic was, oh, I have it here. Okay, so our number 2 topic was, going over the top first in relationships. Are you willing to do it or not? So that was our number 2 topic. So networking in Atlanta. That's going to be our last topic as we talk about DC versus Atlanta. I'm going to give you my final thoughts, and then we may dibble and dabble a little bit into going over the top in relationships first, but it depends on the timing. And if you guys are you still with me? Are you still with me? Are you still chiming in the comments? Hey, Lauren, I appreciate you joining, girly. So yeah, so cheers, clink, 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 clink. Let me take a sip because your girl has been talking for over an hour now. And so let's take a sip and then we'll think about networking in Atlanta and then we'll hop over to, are you willing to go over the top? All right. Okay. So, networking in Atlanta. I'll say this. So I met a really good girlfriend who we actually work together, and we've been kicking it and hanging out, and it's been amazing. We've been going out to all of the local Atlanta hotspots. She actually was born and raised here, so she knows like all the, when you're born and raised in the city, you know all the good stuff. So she's been going out, and everywhere we've gone out, we have met amazing people, exchanged IGs. People have been whole celebrities out here. And as I said, like the networking is just so different. And I think it's primarily because people are more in art, in media. People are more in creative fields, and people are more like entrepreneurs. And when you are in those kind of 3 spaces, you value relationships a lot and you value your network a lot, right? And so I felt like in DC, people are very insular with their network and very private and discretion because, you have the clearances and you have the politicals and you have the powerful people that require you to like be a gatekeeper to the relationship and to and to the information, whereas in Atlanta it's more of a little bit of more open door policy, even though you do have your celebrities and you still require discretion, but it just feels a little bit more open. With people are open with their relationships and what they're doing, what they're creating, and wanting to share it with you and share it with the community. I will say, what else can I say about networking in Atlanta? Again, the private members club, definitely a thing here, which it wasn't so much in DC, or at least I wasn't privy to it. Maybe I wasn't in the clique. Maybe I was not in the clique, and then I just wasn't, a member, a part of the clique to be able to be invited into these private members clubs. But I didn't find them to be a popular thing in DC, whereas here I do find them, and in Miami I find that we have Soho House and things like that as well. So private members clubs is a thing, and networking is a huge thing. Another thing that I wanted to mention to you guys is that, being able to be in media successfully down here. I will say like the first week I was here, so 2 years ago, 2 years ago, Rubes a girlfriend of mine had invited me to an event, and we stopped to take photos because, as you do when you do your social, you stop, you take some IG photos, and I definitely posted them online and tagged like where I was. Promise you, by the first month and a half here in Atlanta, I was getting called by talent scouts for now, mind you, not no beautiful talent for some movie or something like that. No. It was Married at First Sight and Blind and Married and Naked and Afraid and all of these kind of like trashy reality shows. But I'm telling you, like, the opportunity to be in media, it like kind of slaps you in the face here. Whereas in DC, you could be, you know, out and visible all you want. You're not going to get that opportunity like that because obviously it's just more conservative, you know what I mean? And so I will say, like, if you really want to be in media, you really want to be out and seen, Atlanta's definitely the winner in that category. Yeah. So my final thoughts. It definitely depends. So final thoughts on DC versus Atlanta, chocolate city or nah. So what I will say is this: depending on the where you are in your life and the lifestyle that you're looking to maintain, will decipher if DC's your chocolate city or if Atlanta's your chocolate city. For me right now, I'm finding Atlanta to be more of a chocolate city. The mayors, you know, I mean, they're on their 61st mayor. You know, almost always a black person, you know what I mean? Like the networking, the restaurants, you know, just the people being out in the open, the leadership, a lot of it, you know, if you're talking chocolate city, you know, it's Atlanta. You know, DC it used to have that chocolate city title, but I just don't know if it's there anymore. It's a lot of gentrification and it's very conservative and it forces you into kind of being in this corporate career and doesn't allow you to kind of move out of that space. There are a lot of opportunities for you to be like a corporate person and make more than, you know, make mid to high six figures. Absolutely. Atlanta, would I say that? Do I believe that most people are financially stable here as they are in DC? No, I don't think that. I think a lot of people are rubbing two pennies together, or rubbing two nickels together and making it do what it do. You know what I mean? And going out in their sunglasses and their fur. You know what I mean? Like, I do believe that. But, you know, financially, you know, financially that may be the case, but culturally, I just feel like Atlanta's a little bit warmer. And I think that if I had to choose to give a title to of Chocolate City, I'd have to give it to Atlanta. And that's just how I feel about it. You know what I mean? So anyway, that's my take on Atlanta versus DC. I don't see any more questions in the chat about Atlanta versus DC. Is there anything else you guys want me to talk about as it relates to comparing those two cities? I'm happy to do so. Chime in the comments and we'll get into it. The second thing y'all wanted to talk about was going over the top first in relationships. Are you willing? So I'll talk about this a little bit because we're already, how many minutes into the live? We're already almost an hour and a half into the live. So this topic, this second option that you guys chose for this week came up. I was out for Valentine's Day with my girlfriend. We met some folks, and one of the things that came up in conversation was we were asking, like, you know, how's dating going and who are you going to go date and things like that. And the gentleman was like, yeah, you know, I don't know what we're gonna do yet, but I have a date on Thursday. And me and my girlfriend was like, oh, don't be too cool. Don't be too cool. Why you said it like that? Like, why you like, oh, I don't know. And he's like, no, like, I genuinely don't know. Like, I might, you know, wake up on Tuesday and be like, I want to do this or I want to do that. And we was like, okay, well, don't be too cool. Like, if you're going on a date, like, take the girl on a nice date. And so we were laughing about it, and he basically said, well, I don't want to go over the top. What he said, I don't want to go over the top first. Though I think those was his exact words. Like, I don't want to go over the top first. And I clocked it, but I didn't say anything directly to him. But in my head, I was like, that's how they really be feeling. Like, they don't want to go over the top first. And so, oh, excuse me. Hold on. Wait a minute now. Okay, yes. So he was like, oh, I don't want to go over the top first. And so I think what he meant by that, I'm pretty sure what he meant by that was that, you know, he didn't want to do too much or being seen as doing too much first in the relationship, you know what I mean? Or being too eager or being too thirsty in the relationship. And I was just like, I've been there, right? Because like you always, it's always that delicate balance at the beginning of a relationship when you're texting or when you're talking. How much do you reach out to them? How often, how quickly do you respond to their texts? Do you insist that y'all go out, or do you wait for them to ask you? You know what I mean? How do you gauge if they're really interested in you? Is it by how often they text or how quickly they text back? Or if you be quiet for a few days and they don't text you or call you, is that how you're gauging if they're interested, and things like that? And so all of that is in an effort not to be, not to go over the top first. And I'm just like, it's so funny that he said that, because he was the same one in the conversation saying, oh, I'm straightforward, and the next time the person texts you, just say straight to them, I wasn't sure if you were interested, and give and let them know what you're thinking, so they give you an opportunity to clarify if they're interested or not. And so he was the one who was saying that that's how he is in relationships, and he's very straightforward, and he would expect a woman to be the same way. But then, like in the latter part of the conversation, he was like, oh, I'm not trying to go over the top first. And so I was like, look at you being a whole hypocrite, a whole hypocrite. And so I didn't say that to him. And I was, I'm joking right now. Like I understand it, because that's how relationships be. You just don't never know. Half the time you want to be straightforward and be like, look, what's really good? Like, what's your credit score? How many baby mamas you got? Like, what's like, where you trying to travel to for Christmas? Like sometimes you just want to be straightforward. And then sometimes you're like, do they like me? Did I drop enough hints? Like, did I drop the handkerchief? Like, should I tell my friend to tell him that I like him? Or my friend is like, oh, he called me and asked me, do he think you really like me? And all of this foolishness, like we're in high school, you know what I mean? And so I wasn't trying to be too judgy of him, but I definitely clocked the whole, I don't want to go over the top first kind of thing that he was saying, you know what I mean? And so I said, all right, well, we can talk about it a little bit on live, and talk about like, what does going over the top first look like? Is that what, texting too much, calling too much? Is that being too eager? Is that, being the first one to say I love you, or being like showing too much interest? You know what I mean? And so I feel like this is particularly for the guys, because I feel like a little bit that it leans a little bit on the guy to show that he really likes the girl. But I feel like that puts, the woman at a disservice as well too, because it's then like relying too much on the guy to show interest. And then I feel like half the time guys be scared. Like, they be like, I don't know if she really like me. I don't know if she really, she really feeling me like that. You think she feeling me like that? Kind of thing. And you could be dropping hints from you till you blue in the face, and they still like don't get the hints. You know what I mean? I was saying to my sister-in-law, you got to throw the panties in their lap. Like, why is it that you have to throw the panties in their lap for them to get that you like them? You know what I mean? And she was laughing, and we were exchanging what's the blind gentleman's name? Stevie Wonder. We was exchanging Stevie Wonder memes, and being like, they be so blind, I don't even know when you like like them or not, and so concerned about not going over the top first. And so I think I do need to figure this out for myself, and like identify like, what's going over the top? Like, what does that mean? Like, if you haven't heard from them, like text them and be like, hey, what's good? You know what I mean? Like, what's happening? Or is it just like sitting tight and not being, not being too pressed about it? Like, what's over the top? You know what I mean? So anyway, that's what I was thinking for that topic. You guys chime in the comments. Over here we learn from the collective wisdom of the It's KELLS community. I'm the main one over here running off, talking, but I am not the only one who has information here, and we learn from the collective wisdom of the It's KELLS community. So chime in the comments. If you're catching this live, go ahead, and if you're catching this on the replay, like the majority of you guys will, especially my European watchers, and even from South Africa as well, and we have a lot. And I know Felix is in St. Petersburg, Russia. When you guys catch this on the replay, chime in on the comments. What does going over the top first look like? And are you willing to do that and express yourself when you're really wanting to get to know somebody? Yeah? Like, how do you let them know that you still are interested in talking to them without feeling like you're going over the top first. Not Chinadu from Nigeria. Not Chinadu from Nigeria in the comments. Not JB from Shanghai in the comments. We international over here. I know it's morning time in Shanghai. We got a lot of people who watch from China who watch in the morning, I believe on Saturday morning. So JB, thank you for joining in. Chinadu from Nigeria. Where in Nigeria are you? Are you in Lagos? Come on, where are you in Nigeria? Y'all need to let me know. But I appreciate the international audience so much. And thank you guys for joining. Yeah, so let me Chinadu said it's me. It's you, Chin, live from Nigeria. Chin, what you mean by it's me? Oh, he's in Lagos. Yes. I'm trying to be in Africa for the week after Christmas. I'm trying to be sponsored. I'm trying to be sponsored. I was telling Ruby this earlier today. I'm trying to be sponsored to go to Ghana, Accra, for the week between Christmas, like the week after Christmas into the new year. That's where I'm trying to be this year. Cheers! Clink, 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 clink. You know what I mean? Like, you guys know I'm going to get into my travel alchemy stuff pretty soon. And so hopefully we can get some like sponsorship to travel to Africa this year. My goal was to get to Africa in 2020 and COVID had another plan. So we're going to make it happen for 2022 if we can. Yeah. So anyway, I think that's our live for tonight. I do these videos so you guys know you're not out here alone in this crazy dating, living, loving world. If this is your first time here, I'd love for you to subscribe. And if you are an oldie but a goodie, good looking out, I appreciate you coming back. I know you guys were saying, damn, Kels, we ain't seen no videos. We ain't seen no videos for you in a long time. I've been going live for the last 7 weeks. Come on, you gotta pay attention. We are going live. We are back on the channel, and I would so appreciate your support as I get back out here in this YouTube world. You guys know the algorithm. You know, we be going to blows with the algorithm. So if you smash that like button and comment in the live, or if you're watching this after the video, that will help your girl get seen in this sometimes elusive YouTube world and algorithm. So I appreciate the support, and my promise is that I will continue to show my face each and every Friday on our Friday night kickbacks, and I'm on Thursdays on Instagram, right here in the community tab on YouTube and on Facebook. I will give you guys 4 options of things we can talk about for the night, and you let me know what we are talking about, and your girl will start talking about it on Friday nights as promised. If there's any closing, I'm seeing love from Denver. Yes, Denver, Colorado. I'm hearing the dating is good in Denver, Colorado. The girls are saying go west. They're saying the East Coast is tapped and we need to go west for dating in Denver, Colorado. Cheers, Lauren. Cheers, Chinadu. Cheers, Rubes. I appreciate you guys so much. And I will see you guys again next week, Friday, for another kickback. And Thursdays, I'll put the options out. So email me or message me on IG, Facebook, or here on YouTube to let me know what you guys want to talk about. In the meantime, have an amazing Friday night. And if you're watching the replay on Saturday, Sunday, have an amazing one. Hey, Katie. All right, guys, I'll talk to you